Okay, so if you've spent basically any time on a car forum, right? Or maybe listened in at a Sunday meetup.
Oh, yeah, the comment section.
You know the fight. It's always screaming about, like, piston slap versus this silent instant torque thing.
Yeah.
Today, we're diving deep into your sources on this, well, this great automotive culture war. Internal combustion engine, ICE versus the electric vehicle, the EV.
The polarization it's really incredible, isn't it? It feels very much like an us versus them battle.
Totally.
But the reality, and this is what your sources really bring out, it's far more complex than that.
Right.
So our mission here is to try and filter through some of that noise. We want to understand the legitimate criticisms, technical, environmental, emotional, against current EVs.
But also maybe uncover something crucial.
Exactly. That the people actually building this electric future, well, often they're just as passionate about cars, proper cars, as their loudest critics.
Yeah, we've got a really fantastic stack of material here, stuff from engineers at, cutting-edge EV companies, environmental journalists, even some early EV adopters. It gives a pretty rounded view.
A real holistic perspective.
So let's maybe unpack this by starting where that emotional argument really kicks off.
Yeah.
This assumption that if you build an EV, you must somehow hate traditional cars.
That's the core myth, isn't it? The one we really need to take apart right at the start.
Yeah.
Because the sources, they really paint that us versus them thing as largely, well, maybe a myth, perhaps perpetuated by internet arguments.
Right, the anonymity effect.
Because the very people designing the next wave of electric cars, engineers, designers at places like Lucid or Porsche.
Yeah.
They're often not anti-IC at all, far from it.
I found those specific examples really compelling. Like we're talking about EV engineers who personally own, what was it, like Lotus Elise's old BMW M cars.
Even a classic Lotus Esprit S1, one source mentioned.
Wow. So their passion isn't really about the fuel source itself.
No, it's tied to engineering, to finding clever solutions, to performance, to dynamics.
It really connects back to that great quote from the late Ford chief engineer, Richard Perry Jones.
Oh, the one about the oil age.
Yeah. The oil age isn't going to end because we've run out of oil.
The oil age will end because we will have found a better solution. It's perfect.
It is.
Because that's what drives good engineering, isn't it? The hunt for the better solution, not just sticking to dogma.
Makes sense.
And let's be honest, from a pure engineering standpoint, thermal efficiency, volumetric efficiency, power density, the electric powertrain is just, well, it's miles ahead of what ICE can realistically achieve.
Okay, it's efficiency. I get that.
Yeah.
That excites an engineer.
Hugely.
But isn't that just looking at the spreadsheet specs? Aren't enthusiasts right when they argue that pure efficiency, however impressive, doesn't always translate into soul?
Yes, the soul argument.
When you're driving, don't you want to feel something more than just efficient movement?
That really is the absolute heart of the enthusiast grief, isn't it?
Yeah.
When car lovers talk about soul, what they're really mourning is that that emotional deficit.
Yeah.
They miss the noise, the soundtrack, they miss the vibrations coming through the seat and the steering wheel.
The way an engine builds power.
Exactly, that crescendo as it climbs the rev range, and the actual physical interaction of, changing gear, that whole mechanical dance.
That's the essence of ICE appeal for many.
It really is.
And mechanically, the sources pointed out what they call the uniformity problem, which I thought was interesting.
Explain that a bit.
Well, combustion cars are just so wonderfully diverse, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Think about the difference between like a high-revving four-cylinder and a big lazy V8.
Or a flat six or V12.
Yeah, they all feel different, sound different, deliver power differently. Plus, you've got gearboxes, manuals, DCTs punctuating the whole experience.
Exactly. But with almost all current EVs, the power delivery is fundamentally the same.
Right, that instant jolt.
You get that massive instant punch off the line, which is impressive, yes, then super rapid acceleration.
I'm in.
And then it just kind of tails off in terms of drama, doesn't it? Because there are no mechanical stages, no shifts to break it up.
So that lack of mechanical complexity, it's a feature for everyday driving, maybe.
For utility, absolutely. Smooth, seamless.
But for the enthusiast who wants engagement, it feels like a bug. A big one.
It can feel like something major is missing, yes.
So if you take away the inherent drama, the manufacturers then feel like they have to, inject it back in artificially? We're seeing that now, aren't we?
Oh, absolutely. It's all about the gimmicks sometimes. Like Hyundai and Toyota, they're experimenting with EVs that try to simulate gear shifts.
Really? Even fake engine vibrations?
Some are trying that, yes. And sound is huge now. Every performance EV has synthesized noise. Porsche, with the Taycan, they actually record the real electric motor noises,
Okay.
but then they heavily remix and process them to create this specific signature sound.
Which is kind of funny, isn't it?
Right.
Because an IC car wasn't designed to be noisy and vibey for entertainment. It just was complex and mechanical.
Is a byproduct.
And now car makers are trying to reverse engineer that accidental entertainment factor.
It shows they know, doesn't it? They know that just being a silent, fast appliance isn't quite enough for that performance enthusiast market.
Proves the emotional deficit is a real thing they need to address.
Definitely.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit from the emotional stuff to the really pragmatic, practical side. Because even, big EV advocates admit there are significant hurdles with the tech right now.
For sure.
And the sources kept coming back to one massive issue: weight. Just sheer weight.
Batteries are energy dense, but they are also physically dense. They're heavy, and that dramatically impacts how a car feels and handles.
You saw that specific example, the Audi e-tron GT.
Right? What did the source say it weighed? Something like
2,380 kilograms, which is apparently 70 kilos more than Audi even claims for it.
Wow, okay. And compare that to, say, a petrol equivalent.
Well, it's over 300 kilos heavier than a comparable Audi RS7, which is already a big, heavy car.
300 kilos is significant.
And here's the really staggering part. You mentioned it earlier. The battery pack alone.
How much did that weigh?
Around 700 kilograms, just the battery.
700. Right, so to put that in perspective for you listening, that's roughly the weight of an entire original Lotus Elise.
Or like having 4 big blokes in the car with you. All the time.
Permanently. And that weight, it has consequences beyond just, handling dynamics.
Like what?
Well, we always focus on the zero tailpipe emissions, right? Which is great for city air quality, no question.
Sure.
But that immense weight, combined with the huge wide tires you need to handle the instant torque and the mass, it actually contributes to increased particulate emissions. Not from the exhaust, but from the tires wearing down and the brakes working harder.
Ah, right. So you solve one pollution problem at the tailpipe, but you potentially create more tire dust pollution. Interesting.
It's a trade-off that needs more attention.
Okay, then there's the whole charging situation. The great variable in every EV discussion.
The elephant in the room for many people.
Especially if you live in, say, an apartment block or terrace house with no driveway. If you can't charge at home easily.
EV life becomes a real headache. It turns into what one source called the charging lottery.
Lottery? How so?
Because if you rely purely on public chargers, you just have no guarantee of speed. You might luck out and find a brand new, super fast 270 kilowatt station.
Which would be great.
Or you could plug in and find you're getting less than 30 kilowatts, which means you're potentially waiting for hours just to get a decent amount of range back.
Right. You can't really rely on it for spontaneous long trips yet, can you?
Not with the same confidence as pulling into a petrol station, no.
And crucially, it's not always the cheap option anymore, is it? That was a big point in the sources.
No, the cost-saving argument is getting weaker unless you have cheap overnight electricity at home.
Yeah.
The sources detailed the cost for that same Audi e-tron GT. To fill it up at a typical public rapid charger could easily run you, what, about 80 pounds?
80 pounds. And for that, you're getting maybe 250 miles of real-world range.
Yeah.
Sometimes less in the cold.
Exactly. And suddenly, at that price point, you're in the same ballpark as running a thirsty V8 performance car like an Audi RS6.
So the cheap running cost argument really only holds if you have that home charging setup.
Pretty much. For high-mileage drivers relying on public networks, it's eroding fast.
And we absolutely have to talk about depreciation, especially at the high end of the market. The financial risk seems immense.
It is. That same Audi GT costing over 120,000 tons new. The sources estimated it could lose something like 70,000 pounds in value.
70,000 pounds.
In how long?
Just the first 3 years.
Wow. 70 grand in 3 years. If you break that down, that's over 2,000 pounds a month, just in depreciation.
Yeah. Just vanishing value.
That's simply not sustainable for most private buyers, is it?
Not really. And it probably explains why so many of these high-end luxury EVs you see are company cars, where the business can absorb or write off that depreciation.
Exactly. It does make you wonder, as one source hinted, are we currently building status symbols first and maybe practical consumer transport second?
That's a fair question, I think.
Yeah.
It definitely introduces some necessary skepticism about the current state of play.
Agreed.
Okay, let's pivot again to the bigger environmental picture. Because this is where the nuance gets really, really critical, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's not straightforward.
We know EVs are zero emission locally. In cities, that's a huge benefit. But what happens when you zoom out, look at the whole life cycle? Manufacturing, battery production, disposal.
This is the really critical counter-argument, and it's often raised by people who are actually early adopters wanting to be greener.
Right.
While the tailpipe is clean, you have to look at the manufacturing emissions. The sources cited figures from Volvo suggesting that the greenhouse gases produced during the production of an EV
Yeah.
are nearly 70% higher than for making a comparable petrol car,
70% higher. Just to build the thing.
just to get it off the assembly line. And that difference is almost entirely down to the battery.
The energy needed to mine materials, process them, build these massive lithium-ion packs.
It's hugely energy intensive, which means every new EV starts its life with a pretty significant carbon debt that it needs to pay off through emission-free driving compared to an IC car.
Right. Which takes time and mileage.
It does. And this leads to one of the most, well, almost counterintuitive insights from the sources.
Which is?
That maybe the biggest environmental problem isn't the engine technology itself, but the fast fashion culture of how we buy and sell cars.
The constant churn, wanting a new car every 3 years.
Exactly. The sources suggested that if owners simply kept their cars for, say, 5 years instead of the typical 3,
Just 2 extra years.
the CO2 emissions linked to that huge manufacturing footprint would be dramatically reduced, spread over a longer period.
So, keeping your existing perfectly functional ICR running for longer could actually be an environmental positive, at least compared to scrapping it for a brand new EV with that big manufacturing CO2 hit.
It fundamentally shifts the perspective, doesn't it? It suggests longevity is key. Keeping older cars running is an environmental asset, provided we can also find a way to clean up the fuel they burn.
And that's the perfect segue, isn't it, to the alternative technologies bubbling up right now. Things that go beyond the current, slightly imperfect, heavy lithium-ion batteries.
Right. Solutions that aim to make that huge existing fleet of ICE cars potentially carbon neutral.
We're talking synthetic fuels first, e-fuels.
Yes, e-fuels. Porsche is really pushing this. They're developing a CO2 neutral fuel down in Chile using wind power, water, and captured CO2.
And the big news is Formula One adopting this stuff.
By 2026, that's a massive signal. If e-fuels can scale up and become cost-effective, theoretically, every single existing petrol car could run virtually CO2 neutral. No need to scrap millions of vehicles.
Keeps the classics alive, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Then there's hydrogen.
Toyota's big bet.
Toyota is heavily invested in hydrogen fuel cells. The advantage there is they're much lighter than current EV batteries, and you can refuel in minutes, just like petrol or diesel.
We're also seeing companies like JCB exploring hydrogen for, like, diggers and trucks,
Yeah.
using actual hydrogen-burning piston engines.
Yeah, for heavy industry and haulage where battery weight and charging time are huge issues, it's another avenue being explored.
But the real potential game changer for the EV itself, the next leap, seems to be solid-state batteries.
That's the technology everyone is watching. It's seen as the potential future because it promises, well, everything we want. Much lighter weight, significantly more range from a smaller pack, and much, much faster charging.
Lighter, longer range, faster charging. Sounds perfect. What's the catch?
The catch is, they're still quite a few years away from being reliable, affordable, and mass-produced. It's coming, but not tomorrow.
Right, so lots of potential futures, but for now, we deal with current tech. Okay, so we've hammered the compromises, the issues, the future tech, but we absolutely cannot finish this without acknowledging the upsides of current EVs.
Oh.
Because they really do excel in certain areas.
Oh, undeniably. They are completely unmatched in some aspects of everyday utility and driving.
That instant torque, for example.
It's phenomenal. The sheer usefulness of having all that grunt available immediately. Think about overtaking a slow truck or merging onto a fast-moving motorway.
It becomes effortless.
Almost zero planning required. Just squeeze the pedal and you're there. That's where these sometimes seemingly crazy horsepower figures on modern EVs actually serve a really useful, practical purpose. Makes driving less stressful.
And the straight line speed can be properly shocking, can it?
Absolutely. The sources mentioned acceleration tests where, like, a Mustang Mach-E GT, an electric SUV,
Yeah.
was actually faster off the line than a 760 horsepower Shelby GT500 Mustang,
Wow.
or the BMW i4 M50 being quicker than the legendary M4 competition. For those traffic light sprints or just feeling quick day to day, current EVs often have the edge.
And putting aside the raw speed, they just nail being normal cars, don't they?
For the vast majority of driving that most people do, most of the time, EVs are just smooth, incredibly quiet, very refined. They can be remarkably relaxing places to spend time.
So the good news for the enthusiast who feels caught in the middle is that better performance EVs are on the horizon, lighter, more engaging ones.
It seems so. Porsche is working hard on the electric Cayman and Boxster replacements. Those should hopefully address some of the weight and maybe the uniformity issues with clever engineering.
Bring back some feel.
We hope so. And then you see these wonderfully bonkers concepts like that Renault 5 Turbo 3E drift machine. Pure fun, zero practicality.
Love that.
And perhaps most exciting for driving purists are the projects aiming squarely at lightweight electric sports cars, like that British startup Longbow,
Yeah, what are they aiming for?
targeting a curb weight under 1,000 kilograms, which is proper lightweight territory, and aiming for a price around 65,000 pounds.
Okay, that's interesting. Sub 1,000 kilos changes the game entirely.
It proves the goal isn't necessarily to kill driving pleasure, but maybe to redefine it with new tech, once they can get the weight down and the engagement up.
Right. So wrapping this all up then, looking across all these sources,
Right.
what's the final verdict? It feels very nuanced.
It absolutely is. EVs right now are superior in terms of sheer efficiency and everyday utility, smoothness, quietness. But
But
the current generation brings significant compromises, environmental ones in manufacturing, practical ones with cost and charging, and definitely emotional ones for the driving enthusiast concerned about weight and feel.
so the solution isn't this cultural war, this us versus them.
No, not at all. It's about acknowledging the valid points on both sides. People who love IC cars have legitimate concerns.
And the people building EVs aren't the enemy.
They're engineers seeking what they see as a better mechanical solution driven by efficiency and performance potential.
So the likely path forward for the really committed car enthusiast anyway.
Yeah.
It looks increasingly like it might not be choosing one side.
It might simply be both, mightn't it? Use a perfectly sensible, reliable, comfortable EV for all the mundane stuff, the commute, the shopping, the school run, effortless utility.
And then,
And then you keep that older, beloved, maybe slightly temperamental internal combustion car tucked away in the garage
for the weekend blast,
for the pure, unfiltered driving pleasure when you want the noise, the vibration, the interaction, the Sunday morning drive just for the sake of driving.
that feels like a pretty sustainable solution. For the soul, maybe for the planet too, if we get those e-fuels working.
It could be.
But here's the final thought, the provocative bit maybe. If the ICE car survives mainly as this weekend emotional toy, how long before regulators decide that even that kind of driving pleasure is frivolous and try to push it entirely onto a simulator screen?
That's definitely something to mull over, isn't it? Where does actual driving fit in the long term?
Indeed. Well, thank you for sharing all these fascinating sources and letting us really dive deep into this electric divide today. It's been eye-opening.
A pleasure. Lots to think about.
And for everyone listening, if you want more deep dives like this, tailored to the information you're interested in, make sure you follow the channel. Thanks for joining us.